This is Victoria. She is a poet, and she is a poet. I don't really know what poets do, so that's what we're going to find out. If you had to describe it, what is poetry?
So I think poetry is like an art form. I don't honestly know. I think it's a type of art. I think it's a bit like writing a song, but without the music. So it's different to when you write in prose, a story or a book, because it's usually a lot smaller. So you know that everything you are going to write, like every word needs to count. And so you have to pick them carefully, and you want to make sure that they sound right together and there's a rhythm to it, and yeah, you get a feel of whether it's right or wrong, and you have to change things around and everything.
Why did you start at writing poetry?
So a great big life event happened for me at the end of December 2022, and I got a breast cancer diagnosis. And so one of the ways to treat it was to have surgery, and that meant my body was going to change forever. And so apart from being worried about cancer and what the future might hold, there was also the other side of it, which was I was just going to look different forever, and didn't know how I was going to handle that, and I was scared about what other treatments I might need. So there was a lot to write about suddenly, and all of these thoughts in my head, and you don't want to worry other people unnecessarily, and this was definitely a way of just writing down what I was feeling and being able to explain it to others, not necessarily at the time, because I didn't really share my poetry with many people. My other half definitely didn't show it to my mum, because I was bothered about letting my other family know that I was scared and worried about if I was going to live through it and all that sort of thing. So, but once it was all written, it became a book called Restless, and so I wrote the poetry, I did some art, and I wrote some context to go with each poem so people could understand what exactly was happening with each of those poems.
If you had to give some advice to me, let's say I was starting writing, what would you tell me to do?
So I think in order to write well, it's probably good to have read lots of different things to begin with. And that literally can be anything, like newspapers, magazines, as well as books. But then writing-wise, I hadn't done any writing beforehand. So to me, there were just some thoughts going around in my head.
Yeah.
A couple of lines which rhymed. And I thought I need to write them down, and I did. And then as soon as I wrote those down, everything else just appeared magically. So the poem was written in about 10 minutes, and I was astounded that this had come from me, through me, I don't know. And it meant something, I just bared my soul on a piece of paper, and I knew it was quite powerful stuff.
Have you ever performed that one that you wrote?
Yeah, that was one of the first ones I performed. So I performed my first 2 poems I'd ever written on that night a year ago.
Are they long? Were they very long?
About a minute long.
Oh,
each of them, yeah.
That's not too bad then. So it gave you all that probably gave you all that boost of emotion without too much of the stress. Going up there 40 minutes first try, I can't imagine that would be great.
Absolutely, and I think when you write it as well as perform it, it's a way of just getting it out of your head and your body. And so whilst it was quite emotional writing them, after you've done it and after you've performed it a few times, then it doesn't really affect you the same way. It's good that it's out there, but it definitely, if someone's not heard it before, affects them.
Yeah.
Embodiment. When I was little, I couldn't see. My parents sorted specs for me. They felt so foreign, I hated them, and still prefer when I am free from frames. Myopic eyes, windows to the soul, no barrier between you and me. At uni, my housemates tease me endlessly about the size of my derriere. In days when waifs were the in thing, my average size behind, at the forefront of my mind, at all times and in all clothes. another layer of imperfection I believed my body held. 5 years passed, my belly swollen, carrying a soul so perfect. After he vacated and set out on his own, my muscles separated, a small belly formed. This part I had perhaps felt most confident about, forever now a doubt in my head. And then my greatest lesson, my 2 breasts lessened by 1 thanks to the cancer which grew there once. No way to ignore this scar wider than my heart emblazoned on my chest. This ultimatum: choose now to love all that you are. Your unseeing eyes, your average size bottom, your kangaroo pouch, your symbol of womanhood halved. For these are parts of a body beautiful, the embodiment of endless possibilities and miracles unseen, once capable of creation and still able to feel myriad emotions, chiefly love. This connection to the divine. Who am I to deny this gift, with all its imperfections, is anything less than the greatest vessel I shall ever know? This body beautiful, the embodiment of my soul.
Spring brings lighter nights. We like to hike, ride our bikes, pulling wheelies. Nice.
Cool communities, create and collaborate. Summer kites fly high.
Foraging for food, find fine edible nettles, fall for wild garlic.
Wet Winter Film Club, capturing our lives on screens, drawn inside by friends.
Hello, I'm Xander. This is Escape to Make Film Club, and we are here to interview a poet from the Wordarium, Trystan Lewis. Hello, Trystan.
Hi there, thank you.
So the first question is, when did you do your first poetry performance, and how did it make you feel?
It's a great question, and I've got an answer because I remember it very clearly, because it wasn't that long ago. It was at the Morecambe Poetry Festival in 2022, obviously. And it was late at night, and there was like an open mic thing where people were taking turns to go up and read one poem, and then go back and join the back of the queue again, and go round again. And the winner would be the person who still had a poem left to say as they went round again and again. And I didn't have any poems with me. But what I did have was a bunch of song lyrics of songs that I'd written over a very long period of time. And I just thought, I wonder if I could get away with reading out some song lyrics and pretend that they were poems. And I had a go at that. And at one point in time, I heard, after I'd finished, someone say, follow that, as if what I'd said had been quite good. And that made me feel really good. It made me think like, I'm going to join the back of the queue again. I'm going to keep on going around reading out my old song lyrics. And I suppose that made me think that I really wanted to do a bit more of this spoken word poetry. And that's, I suppose, how we ended up here today.
So the next question is, what is poetry?
That's a really difficult question, and I'm not sure I'm qualified to answer it, really, because there's probably as many answers as there are poets. But I think that poetry is a kind of communication, and some people write them down and some people speak them out loud, but however they choose to do it, I suppose there are certain tricks that you can do in a poem that you maybe can't do in other ways of communicating. There's tricks with rhyme and tricks with rhythm, and you use those tricks to try and get across some kind of emotional message or some kind of, well, communicate something. And because of those tricks, those little tricks of the way you say it. And if it's spoken, you've got these other tricks about making it louder and stronger or quieter and softer, and you change your voice and all of those other tricks that we all use all the time but we don't talk about. And you can use those to get across a message and try and make other people understand what it's like to be you, or show them that you understand what it's like to be them, and that's maybe what poetry's about.
Could you please describe your poem in poetry in one word? In
one word? Well, these are tough questions. So in one word, I'd like to describe my poetry as empathetic.
Have you ever been nervous about performing?
Yeah, of course. I'm nervous. I was nervous on that first night that I was telling you about. I was nervous then. I was nervous that without my guitar to hide behind, I wouldn't be able to remember the lyrics. I was nervous that people would just ignore me and start talking. And it would just be a nothing. You're not scared of someone taking offense or shouting at you, but it's offense that this is irrelevant, that this is not important. And I am afraid when I perform that this is meaningless, and somehow someone will just giggle or chatter or just show you that your stuff is worthless, because that's a really bad feeling and I don't want to feel that.
Thank you. This was Escape to Make interview with Trystan Lewis.
Thank you, Xander. The first law states that love can't be created ex nihilo. From nothing must come nothing, but those tears left on the pillow seem to show that for a moment something surely did exist. Though whatever it was that flickered there, it failed to persist. Like those subatomic particles from the great accelerators, you'll never know the truth until you've analyzed the data of the traces left behind. Because the thing with laws of physics is, they hate to be defied. The first law further states that love can't be destroyed. It may be gathered in one place or be dispersed to fill the void. But the sum of love is constant throughout the universe. So for every act of care, there has to be an act that hurts someone, somewhere, completely unrelated. Which might sound like a paradox, but I've been through the data of the traces left behind. And the thing with laws of physics is, they hate to be defied. The second law states what's brought together falls apart. There's more disorder in the future than there was back at the start. That when two imperfect surfaces began to come together and the forces in between them changed one love into another. But for every transformation, that second law applies. So where it gathers, love will dissipate right before your eyes until there's only traces left behind. Because the thing with laws of physics is, they hate to be defied. The third law uses concepts that I've never understood. And as my world grew colder, I knew I never would know any more tomorrow than what I learnt today. In a universe like this, love constantly decays, as heat from all the friction and noise from all the lies creates a place equations all break down and can't describe the traces left behind. But the thing with laws of physics is that they're not finished yet. And there's still a lot of work to do, and we should not forget that the paradigms inherited are liable to shift, and you and I can write new laws of physics if we wish. Because laws were made for people, not people for the laws. And you can be in my design if I can be in yours. Thank you.
Trudging through mud, squelching underfoot, we are stuck at school, screaming.
Fierce fighting, futile feuds, loathsome, languished, lonely.
We want to feel lifted, light-hearted, loved. No more anxiety, no more annoyances. Be gone, melancholic misery.
Our teacher says, go away, it's the end of the day. Now this is our time to be stress-free, to be happy.
Turn off the TV and welcome in the time when nobody tells us what to do. We have our independence and we are relaxed.
We're going to make an impact. We're going to create. We're going to escape to make.
Beautiful brilliance at Bicycle Club. Bountiful benevolence, buckets of it.
We laugh being daft, creating craft.
At Green Club we have been seen, pollution we clean.
We make a resolution to never be mean.
But best of all, a cabaret and festival.
We love Press Club, and at Film Club we filmed the weirdest tea party, and cake and milkshake, it was great.
We create our own joy and celebrate at Escape to Make.
Anyway, I think we're done. That's about it. I don't see anything on this other page. Thank you for watching and listening.